and welcome to the Open Paddock RallyCast. This is episode 41, and we've got a great show for you this week. Co-presenter Ian Holmes returns, and we welcome special guest and recently crowned American Rally Association Open Two-Wheel Drive Co-Driver Champion, Martin Brady. We'll go over with him his background and their championship run this year, as well as what it's like rallying in the U.S. versus abroad. Then me and Ian will get into a little bit of the rally news of what's going on both here in America with the new schedule released from ARA, as well as WRC news. This is Open Paddock, the RallyCast. Well, hello, I'm your host, Mike Shaw, and as I said in the opening, we welcome back to the show the man who's taking things back to the 1920s, complete with smuggling moonshine in the back of a Model T Ford, Ian Holmes. Ian, welcome back! Did you miss me?
Oh, Mike, I missed the whole of my rally family. It's been quite the emotional roller coaster of the past few weeks since Ojibwe. Those who know me know that I'm also a keen model railroader, and I was invited to show my work at a national convention in Minneapolis a couple of weeks after Ojibwe, and as a result of that, Model Railroad magazine publisher has asked if I'd write an article for his magazine on my work. So I was on a real high there, and then a couple of weeks later we hit a bit of a low when unfortunately my mother-in-law passed away. She'd been very ill for a long time, but so that was a bit of a downer. But
sorry to hear that. So it's always tough to lose someone that you've been close to.
Mm-hmm, yes, so there was a lot of aftermath with the funeral and all that kind of stuff to deal with. But hopefully things are getting back on a more even keel now. And as you mentioned, yes. I am now the proud owner of a 1926 Model T Ford. Anybody who knows me knows that I love old cars, old classic cars, and you can't get much more classic than a Model T Ford, the car that shaped America. And the moonshine, well, the person I bought it from is a bit of a history buff, and they like to have fun with the car, and they have this big old moonshine jar on the back parcel shelf of the Model T Ford, and so that goes with the car. So we'll be driving this car across the prairies of Minnesota with a big old moonshine jar on the back parcel shelf.
I just happened to notice because there's a picture of you in the car. You're kind of looking kind of towards the back there, and I'm like, what? That's a giant jug handle back there. What the? Oh, brilliant stuff! Brilliant stuff. So it runs well?
It runs what for a 1926 car. It runs very, very well indeed. Yes. Luckily, I'm gonna be in the position of not having to do an awful lot to it, which is very nice. All
right. Well, moving on, we are going to, of course, bring on next our special guest that we have this week, Martin Brady. He is the current Open Two-Wheel Drive champion with the American Rally Association. So when we come back, it'll be with Martin. Well, as I said in our intro, we have with us now American Rally Association Open Two-Wheel Drive Co-Driver Champion, Martin Brady of JRD Rallysport and other co-driving experience. Martin Brady, welcome to the Open Paddock RallyCast.
Good evening, gentlemen. Thank you very much for having me on the show.
Well, it's so great to have you. A heck of a championship you had this year here in the States. First of all, I want to say congratulations on that championship. But for our listeners that don't really know your background a little bit, give us a little bit of start in the beginning there of how you became such a great co-driver. Obviously we see you here in the States, with Seamus a lot and heard about other exploits a little bit. But, I always think that in Ireland, there's so much rallying going on, you could probably pretty much open your front door and there's rally cars.
Yeah, pretty much. Well, thank you. Yes, we had a good season. All just went pretty flawless, and you don't get those seasons all the time. There's always some drama somewhere, but we didn't seem to find that this year. Seamus never put a wheel wrong. The team never put a wheel wrong. Everything was perfect there. So it was, this one was definitely a memorable season for those reasons. For me and rallying, yes, I suppose I'm getting to be more of a veteran these days. I'm not a junior anymore, definitely, that's for sure. As my wife keeps reminding me regularly enough now, I'm getting on in years and I'm getting on in numbers of events. Recently, I crossed my 400th event, so I'm up somewhere now. I think I'm up somewhere around 410 events that I've competed on, and I started in the year 2000 in Ireland. And obviously, because Ireland is quite a concentrated place for rallying, yes, you're right in saying that we could do an event, sometimes 2 events every weekend at home in Ireland. And because of that, that's how I managed to reach that number over the period of 18 years. Where I live in the west of Ireland, I wouldn't go as far as to say that I could just open my door and get to a rally, but I could probably be at any rally within 2 and a bit hours every weekend. So there is that opportunity, and we're very lucky to have what we have there, because we have both closed road rallying on public tarmac roads that are closed for our benefit for the tarmac rallies, and then we also have good forestry rallies. Maybe we don't have the same mileage as you would have on the loose surface forestry stuff as we're used to in the US, because just for the sheer geographical size of the forest, we're in the US, you're playing on a much larger scale when you get into forests. But we still have good stuff, classic stuff, enjoyable stuff, and we have a fairly strong forestry championship running in the country, well put together, good, fairly compact, but enjoyable events. And yeah, because of that, that's why we managed to get so many miles under our belt and so much experience. And there's nothing like experience in rallying. Every day's a school day. That's what I think anyway. You learn something every rally, and you'll always come upon something different, some new scenario, and you're always learning, and that's what I enjoy about the sport,
Mm-hmm.
So what got you hooked? I mean, what was your first rally you can remember experiencing that's like, I got to be a part of this?
Yeah, well, I can remember it like it were yesterday, because it was outside the front door of my parents' house.
See, I was right.
Yeah. It was
funny.
Actually, in those days, it was very much, yes, absolutely outside the front door of the house. It was the Circuit of Ireland, which is a name of a rally that will probably mean something to, I'm sure, a good portion of your listeners, because it's quite a famous rally. And it's up there. It's a very recognisable name. A stage of that rally started outside my parents' house in 1990, and at that point I was a young schoolboy at the time, very, very interested in all things Ford, particularly Ford tractors, and that was what my life was all about. I grew up at a farm, and anything that was blue oval, particularly blue oval tractors, was that caught my attention. Went to watch the rally, and there was 2 cars in particular that caught my eye. They were Ford Sierras. They were identical to my eye, and they were identical looking cars. They turned out to be the Group A works entry for Jimmy McRae, and then the Group N entry for his son, Colin McRae, who at the time I didn't know anything of, other than these guys were cool to me because they were in cars with Ford logos that looked really, really good and really fast, even standing still. And that's what got my interest at that point. Because you're talking back in the days, I know this is going to make me sound like real old, but these are pre-internet days where, the only source for rally information was through specialist magazines and maybe TV programs. At that point in time, I thought this was the only rally. I didn't know there was a wider playing pitch out there, and there was more rallies other than that. So I thought I had to wait until the following year for the next Circuit of Ireland rally to come. And that's what it was like for a year or two before I realised that there was a bigger field out there, and other rallies you could go to, other rallies you could watch. And then I started going to rallies locally with just one of my neighbours. He took me to rallies to spectate and also to marshal, what you guys call workers here in the US, and got involved in that. And then in my college years, I went to college in Donegal, joined the motor club there, became involved in the motor club there. Again, we're on rallies, marshalling, timekeeping, that sort of stuff. Then graduated from that to my first, what we would have called a night navigation rally, which is rallies on maps that don't exactly have special stages, but they have kind of like, I think what you guys have here, the Targa rallies, timed rallies. It's more about finding your way around on a map, getting to particular points in the right direction at the right time, that sort of stuff. Did a couple of those, and then graduated to proper stage rallying in 2000. Luckily enough for me, it was a good one, because I started my first rally in a Ford Sierra, a rear-wheel drive Ford Sierra, so the circle was coming round a little bit. And I'll never forget the excitement of coming to the first junction and arriving into it sideways and looking out the window and actually being on the inside of the windscreen, looking out at the spectators and the marshals and so on, and going, this is where I want to be, this is where I need to be. So I never had Yeah, I never had an inclination or the confidence in myself to be a driver. I mean, me as regards driving, I always give the analogy of, when you see a dog chasing a car or a dog chasing a bus, I'm a bit like that dog, because if I catch it, I'm not going to know what to do with it. So that's me when it comes to driving. I like to think that I'm smarter than the average bear when it comes to driving, because I've seen some things that obviously in 400 odd rallies and tests and so on, some of it goes in by osmosis. But then again, to be, smarter than the average driver doesn't really say a lot, because sometimes the average driver is not great. So I am very happy to sit in the passenger seat and watch someone else do it and just try and give them the direction. So all I ever wanted to be was a co-driver, and I've been lucky that that's what I've managed to be.
I'm so glad to hear that, to hear another co-driver with that point of view, because when people ask me, wouldn't you want to drive? I said, nope, I'm living the dream here, and I'm quite happy to sit in the co-driver's seat. So it's like, let's talk a bit about the relationship that you have between that you have in the car between driver and co-driver. I mean, I've watched a few of your in-car videos, and it seems incredibly relaxed when you're in the car. I mean, nothing seems rushed. Is it really that calm in there?
I'd like to think so. Probably in my own head, it doesn't always seem so calm. Mm-hmm. I'm glad that you think it's calm. That's obviously the goal, and that's what you want to try and aim for. Obviously not too calm that it becomes laconic. Mm-hmm. You want to try and keep a bit of tempo in it, I suppose. But I guess the real answer is it varies from driver to driver. Different drivers want different things. Yeah. And how you deliver the notes, at the end of the day, it has to be whatever the driver wants. And for Seamus, our style is we do a lot of repeating. Mm-hmm. I follow him through the corners. We stick with the corners. We're never too far up the road ahead. Everything is as it's happening, and we sort of the corners are anchored. This is where we are. That's where we're going, and sometimes come back to repeat where we are, and it just seems to work for us. I put that down a lot to because Seamus is one of the older style drivers where he would have started his rallying without the benefit of pace notes. So he would have been
back
rallying.
Then it was like just route notes, right? Like a tulips type of thing.
Yes, tulips, yes. So you're doing a lot of rallying on line of sight and what you see and having a feel for the corner. And that plays against you a little bit on pace notes because they're not inherent to you. They're not what you've started rallying on. So you're trying to learn that habit, and I don't think you ever learn it fully when that's how you started your rallying. But what I find it does mean, and especially with Seamus, I've had it with other drivers who are of a similar, started rallying at a similar time, would have rallied in the same way at the start. When they come into a corner and they have a moment, either that the corner turns out to be something that you didn't expect it to be, through the corner tightening or the grip changing or something going wrong, they have these instant reactions and this sixth sense and this ability to gather up the moment and do something about it. Whereas I think people that are 100% committed to pace notes, sometimes when it all goes wrong, it's going to go wrong, and it's more of an effort for them to gather it up and do something. Whereas these older style drivers, they're always rallying with that little bit of a margin in reserve or that little bit of ability that when you go off the edge of the envelope, they can still bring it back and still do something. That the limit is a little bit more elastic. That's what I like to think about it. But as I say, it's, every co-driver is different, every driver is different. And I suppose the secret of the finesse in it is finding what works for each particular driver, and don't really worry what it sounds like or how you come across once they're happy. Mm-hmm. And that's in both your tone and your delivery, but also in the words you use, because some words that you would use with one driver would mean nothing to another and may in fact only serve to confuse them. So it's a very personal thing and a very personal relationship, and I think it works best when you understand each other, or as a co-driver when you're willing to adapt and do whatever's necessary and say whatever's necessary, because you're just reading what's on the page, and it has to be whatever goes into their ear, into their mind, and translate out through their hands the simplest way.
So that's it's all about building the trust, isn't it? Getting a level of trust between the two of you really quickly.
Yes, I think so, and it works best when you do trust each other, because then you're more relaxed in the car, and it's something for me. I think the biggest buzz comes from that, when you trust somebody implicitly. Mm-hmm. And I can think of some of the best rallies I've had have been times where you've with drivers that you haven't really had the moments, or when you've had the things that have the potential to go wrong or starting to go wrong, you look across them and they're supremely confident. They have this So that confidence feeds back into you that you can just, don't worry about it, call the next corner, we're going to get there. Whereas if you don't have a doubt in your driver, if you do have a doubt in your driver and you're looking up and you're thinking, if you're looking for where you're going to go off the road as opposed to what the next corner is and having confidence that you're going to get around it, that's not going to come across in helping you do your job best. And it's not going to give them confidence in your ability. So I wouldn't go as far as to say fake it until you make it, but the more confidence you have, the better it is for everybody. And it feeds into everything. But then, of course, there are times when, difficult stages or difficult moments when something's going wrong, whether you have a problem with the car, conditions are difficult. Sometimes it's hard for driver and co-driver to keep your composure and just say, right, let's get through this. But Seamus, for example, is one that's very, very good at that. No problem in backing off and just holding back that 10% when something's not working right. If there's an issue with the car or there's an issue with the conditions, and we've done that many times, and that approach has served us well. But that's something you only learn, I think, with experience. And between us in the car, we have plenty of that. So I think we're able to do that.
Cool. Yeah, because this is the thing. It's like, this is the great thing about rally for me. It's like you're an extremely experienced driver, and I'm a co-driver, and I've only been doing this like 2 or 3 years. Yet we've both been in that situation in the car where you feel that trust between driver and co-driver, and it's a fantastic feeling when you actually have that between the two of you.
It is. It's a great buzz, and that's when it works best. But you're not going to get that on every stage for whatever reason. Rallies, it's never going to be perfect. That's the thing about rally, and it is always changing. You can throw out all these cliche sayings like, racing drivers see one corner 1,000 times. We see 1,000 corners one time. So by dint of that, it's always going to be different. And my own personal favourite, the one I like to reference every now and again, is that for every mile of road, there's 2 mile of ditch.
Love it.
Which means there's plenty of opportunities to get it wrong and plenty of opportunities to be stuck somewhere that you don't want to be and watching everyone else go past you. So, yeah, because it's so varied. But that's why I think when it works well, when you get a finish and you get a good result in, despite all the challenges, that's when it pays off, and you have that sense of satisfaction and achievement when you get your result.
Every mile of road, 2 mile of ditch. That needs to go on a T-shirt, doesn't it?
Yeah. Yes. Yes, indeed.
Hang on, I'm just going to pause this call and run and copyright that and trademark
right?
and all that shit.
In the U.S. Championships over the years, you've competed in both the Evo and in the two-wheel drive Escort. That's not so much an Escort, really. Preference going four-wheel drive versus two?
That's a difficult one to answer, because I was even today I was watching some footage of us in the Evo for a rally we have coming up, just comparing previous stages to what we're going to do this year. And I'd sort of forgotten just how much speed we carry in the Evo and how effortless it was, that we were actually, it seems to be that we're going a lot faster. Whereas in the Escort, I don't think we're carrying the same terminal velocity, but we seem to be doing more driving in it. It's funny, they're different, they're very different. And what I enjoyed this year was comparing certain stages, how it felt in the Evo, say, previously, and now how it feels in the Escort. They're both very, very different. I mean, the Escort is a supremely capable machine, and it's an Escort, but not as we know it, in that it's it started out life as a 1977 Ford Escort shell, and over a number of years and lots of nips and tucks and engineering cuts and re-welds and supreme CAD CAM design and all these sort of things, it came out the other side of the JRD Rallysport garage with essentially somewhat R4 Mitsubishi type suspension with the Mustang, the modern 2017 Mustang engine in it, and all these things where it's almost got a foot in both camps of sort of the Evo type suspension and technology and so on with the modern engine. It just so happens that there's 50% less wheels propelling you up the road, but it's a car that I cannot think of an equal of it anywhere else in the world, to be honest. And it is a privilege to sit in it. And while I say the Evo was fast and everything seemed effortless in the Evo, this one for sure, one of the big things this year is the amount of fans that come up to us and tell us that it is such a fan favorite, and we like that. I like that people appreciate that we put on the show for them, because we always appear interview very sideways. You've always heard us before we come interview because the car is so loud. So I can appreciate for people on the ditches watching it, it's an enjoyable car to see, and it's something different. And I always remind myself every now and again sitting in it that it is a privilege to sit in it, because it is so different, and it is very much one of a kind at the moment until a brother or sister appears for it. At the moment, it's a unique machine, so very enjoyable, yeah. And I think because it is so rare, probably if you park the two of them side by side and said which one will we take, I think you'd have to go on the Escort, really, for all of the above reasons.
Hear, hear. That's quite the machine that Johan and the guys have helped prepare. It's fantastic, and I'm just a fan, really, and I love seeing and hearing you guys go by. One thing I also want to touch on is, you guys came out west to finish the championship. Now, for you, is that the first time you've been west of the Rockies rallying in America?
No, not at all. No, in previous seats in previous JRD cars with Tingmu Song, had been out to Olympus before, had been out to the Nameless Rally before. I think it was 2013, did quite a lot of rallies.
Yes, I remember the Nameless Rally. I was there. I was a volunteer / marshal back then, yes?
Yes, yeah. So we did all those rallies, and then we won the Californian Championship and things like that, so we would have been in Arizona and Prescott, all those sort of rallies. So, no, I have come, Feifel has come west before, all right, yes, but not for a couple of years. But I always like coming west to enjoy the rallies there. It's such a different feeling and a different scenario than the East Coast rally. So it's nice to have that difference. And in particular, I always have a little bit of an extra buzz for coming to the Washington rallies, because I have in my mind the special place that rally and those stages hold in the history of the sport, being the last place that we had Group B cars. So I consider it a privilege to come and race on those roads for that reason.
And specifically at Tour de Forest, some of those roads were specifically used as part of the 1986 Olympus Rally, and they will probably never be used again, some of those, because it's going to be part of a wildlife preserve.
I didn't know that part of it, but yes, that was one of my first questions to Doug Shepherd, and Doug being such a doyen of the sport and having been around in so many guises and wearing so many hats in the sport, he was the guy I knew I had to go and ask and say, listen, which of these stages, which bit of road here is going to be the same road that we would have had the Quattros and the Group B Lancias going up and down in the mid-'80s, because I wanted to know that just for myself when you're sitting on a start line and thinking, right, this is the same stage. Just to have something in the memory banks to be able to say, I never would have thought when you were watching those videos and things. I know with YouTube now, they're even more accessible, but back in the day when you would have been trying to find old VHS cassettes of what the Group B cars were like and what that era was like, and to see rallies see Olympus and that, to now know that we had the ability to go there and do that. Because if you think of it from a racing point of view, you can be a fan of F1 or Indy, or open wheel or, sports cars, and maybe never get the chance to drive Le Mans or Spa or Indianapolis. No matter where in the sport you compete, maybe you just don't have that opportunity to go to those places and follow in the wheel tracks of other things. In rallying, we're lucky enough that you can do that. I've been lucky enough to do stages in Wales that have been part of the Wales Rally GB in another guise. I've been lucky enough to go to Monte Carlo and do the Col Torini and things like that. And if I was a racing driver, again, not that I'm a driver, but what's to say you could never have been able to go to, Spa or Road America, Laguna Seca, Suzuka. These things wouldn't be an option to you probably. So we're lucky that we're able to do that, and it's just another unique, special thing about rallying.
Ian faded away. Probably lost his mute button again.
There you go. Sorry, lost my mute.
See, he does that.
I do that all the time. Yeah. So anyway, do you have like a favourite rally of all those that you've competed in?
That's a question I've been asked before, and a question I don't think I've been able to answer before. I struggle to have a favourite. The funny thing is, and maybe it's just the way it's maybe I don't know, is the best way to look at the sport. Some of the results I remember are the ones that didn't happen for whatever reason. Rallies that I've been doing well on and we've been leading or or about to do something on as regards the championship or get a special result, and then it didn't happen. Like, I can remember leading the Scottish rally one time with an Irish driver, and it just was one of those rallies that seemed to be effortless. Everything was going our way. And, the Scottish was British champ. It was not a British championship around that year, but it was one of the ones I would have looked up to, as a young guy coming up watching it on the TV. And we're leading the rally. And I remember sort of pinching myself thinking, my God, we're leading the Scottish rally. We're going to get this, thinking, we're going to get the same result here and we're going to get our names on the trophy. And then we had a simple mechanical failure, and that was the end of that. So maybe it's a negative way of looking at it, but things like that they're the ones that stick out in my mind, unfortunately. I suppose the ones that got away, and there's been a few, but then there's been the ones that did come our way too. And I remember those. I remember winning New England with Seamus. When I came to America first to do rallies with Seamus, the first rally I did with him was New England, and to think that a couple of years later we'd be lucky enough to win it, there was a lot of relief at that final stop car, that final control, and we have some lovely photos of the two of us there, just because it's quite tense going into the last stage. All we had to do was stay on the road to win it, and we managed to do it. So that, for that reason, because I like to think of, as I said, the circle coming around full circle. New England was my first rally with Seamus in the US, and then a couple of years later we were lucky enough to win it. So yeah, that holds a special place in my mind. STPR as well, because that was the first rally I came to do in the US back in 2006. So I always like STPR. It's going to be different next year if we do the event, being in September. That'll change it around a little bit. So that's going to be a good one. And then the Irish rallies, I always like going to Killarney for that rally, because fantastic stages down there. In Ireland we have a lot of very good rallies to choose from, and the way I think of it is, you have Donegal has fantastic atmosphere, but Killarney has stages that there are no equal for perhaps anywhere in the world. So if you get a good day's rallying down in Killarney, that's always a good one. So it's probably a favourite, but I guess I like all of them, any rally, and I'm happy to go do it. There's no bad ones.
I mean, just doing recce myself, it's like if I could pick sections of this rally and and then mix it with that one, and then you could make the ultimate rally, right?
Yeah, that's something I do think of myself as we're going through stages on recce, and sometimes I'll write that in my own little notes to remind myself to say, this looks a little bit like that rally, and this reminds me a bit of that stage, and it helps me, for me, and just whatever way my brain works, to come back to stuff and say, yeah, this is a bit like that stage, and I remember this reminds me a bit of this one, or we use this road in such and such a year. And yeah, it's all a big jigsaw, and you put the different pieces of it together, and at the end of the day, they're all just roads, aren't they?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we've touched on it a couple of times, and let's talk a little bit about the tarmac rallying in Ireland, because I mean, I've watched plenty of in-car videos, and you have some stunning scenery out there. How does the tarmac rallying differ from rallying on gravel like we're used to?
Well, in Ireland, which is probably what I can speak most to, as regards the width of the roads, in some places in the US, the roads are actually probably wider, and in some places possibly smoother. So our roads are quite narrow, secondary back roads, bumpy roads. Yes, we have the beautiful scenery in places, particularly along the West Coast rallies. We have some fantastic scenery. Not that you should be looking at it when you're, you're in a rally car. It's not really the time to be admiring it. Or if you have the time to admire it, maybe you need to be, poking the driver to come on a bit. But yeah, what we have in Ireland that's different is the tarmac has more grip, I would say, obviously, than gravel, because it's a sealed surface. It's not a loose surface moving underneath you until it gets wet. And in Ireland, we do have the odd bit of rain, and you meet what's called shiny tar, which is the polished surface of the tarmac. And when you get to that, you just have no grip at all. It's almost like black ice in some places. So that's what you need to be watching for, in the rain, when you have the shiny. Once you see the reflection off the road, you need to code into your mind that that's a place we have less grip. So it's the grip, I suppose, is the biggest change, and the fact that you all of a sudden don't have grip, whereas on gravel the grip is always changing, the car is always moving. And I guess maybe in tarmac rallying you're carrying more velocity, so the jumps are bigger. It just depends on the technical nature of the stages. In Ireland, we do have fast, wide open stages too, but for us, for reasons of average speed and keeping the average speeds down, those sections normally aren't too far or too fast before they're broken up by chicanes to reduce the speeds. So that's just the nature of the sport and the way it is. You have to keep an eye on safety too. So that's how it is.
I know you got to catch a plane here real quick, and just want to get a couple other questions here. Now, in talking about Irish rallying, it kind of got a reputation of, shall we say, creative use of the rules in some cases. Kind of if you didn't see it, maybe it didn't happen. I just want to know, what's the most outlandish or bizarre thing that you've experienced at an Irish rally?
Well, I couldn't possibly say, and we have a very healthy regard for the rules. We certainly would never break rules. We may have found some that may be more malleable to bending than others. I'm not really sure I could tell you much of those stories while still competing. May have to wait till we get the biography.
You didn't have to name names. I'm just like, what is like a car just suddenly shows up maybe to a stage start with no service in between. Suddenly there's new rubber all around, that kind of thing.
To be honest, those stories are they're not as prevalent as they used to be. They certainly were in the past. They're not just, the sport has come away from that a little bit, but there's still probably a bit of that. But we may or may not have had times where the car, maybe the co-driver had checked into the control, and let's say the car was maybe a couple of miles down the road and just hadn't appeared yet. So like a ghost car. That may have happened on occasion. It may have happened. It may have happened to me on a forestry rally a number of years ago, and it may have been highlighted to me afterwards that maybe the choice of a bright red suit wasn't really the best choice of fashion when you were trying to clock into a time control minus your car and minus your driver, and then try and hide in the hedge awaiting their arrival.
I love it. That's great.
That may have been pointed out to me. But I mean, I think in Ireland, certainly as you go down the field and the clubmen, there is a good sense of camaraderie and a good sense of trying to help each other, and that the rally is there to be won on the stages, and nobody is really out to overly apply all of the rules to the letter of it, that it's a clubman sport and we're all there for a bit of fun. So you will have a good bit of camaraderie and a good bit of help amongst people, including, let's say, maybe sometimes people could be working on a car in a control. I've seen it in rallies where, I think it was in Donegal one year, actually, Chris Meek's car, I think, if I'm remembering this story right, where they had an exhaust problem and everyone just got around the car, tipped the car up on its side, fixed it, put it back down on its wheels, and, away you go. And I can remember another scenario where there was a guy had lost a wheel after the final stage, stopped car and on his way back to the finish, and got to the finish on three wheels with a number of people hanging out of the car trying to balance it just to get him to the finish. So we have those sort of things, all right. They wouldn't, when you see them happening, let's say, they wouldn't be a surprise to your eyes. Yeah. It's the culture of helping one another out, and that the rally is won on the stages, and let's get it done would sort of be the overriding attitude, let's say. But I like to think that, we do have some creative workaround to the rules every now and again. Yes. Yeah.
Well, as you get ready to head off to your plane here to go to LSPR, which is a wonderful, wonderful rally.
That's the next. That's our sort of, I guess, it's our end of season hurrah. As you referenced earlier on, we had a very good season in the Area Championship, and we very much enjoyed it. It was for us, it was a flawless championship. Everything ran like clockwork for us, and there was nothing wrong at all. With the car or ourselves all year, all the rallies, everything was flawless, and we came into the season as probably we always do. Let's do this rally and that rally, and time permitting, and if it all fell into place. And we did. We started the season with that attitude, and then we were getting good points, and we found ourselves funneling in towards being able to get a result in the championship. So that's what caught our attention, and that's what we headed towards. And we were very, very glad at the last rally in Washington to be able to get the finish and get the points and claim the championship, because that's something that can never be taken away from you, to put your name in the record books like that and have the championship for the year. And it's a good reward, not just for us, but for the guys working on the car, that we had such a clean championship with no problems, no retirements, and with that we got the championship. We had good competition. Yeah, we could never let off. Eric Potts ran us very close. Mike Cooper, when he came to rallies, ran us very close as well. We could never, take our eye off the ball. We always had to keep a measured and controlled pace, go quick enough that we were able to stay in front of those guys, but and not make a mistake and not go off the road, or just not, keep everything clean and going forward. And that's sometimes not the easiest thing to do. So good sense of achievement, good sense of relief to get that done and get the championship, and another tick on the CV, and another result to bring back home to the Burke household, because Seamus has many fantastic results in American rallying, and it's great that we're still doing it, and we hope to continue and do it for another while with this car. And maybe until the reins have to be handed over and it's Joseph's turn to be the one taking all the prizes home to the Burke house.
Well, he's going to be competing this weekend as well, right? You got the full family affair.
He's very much a family affair this weekend. He's out in the Evo, a car that's very much under development. He's had some rallies this year where he's been very fast and the pace has been good and he's been at the top of the leaderboard, but just some niggly problems with the car, finding things, because it's such a new machine, finding some small things that are going to break on it and finding the limits of the car. Hopefully this weekend he'll find the limits of the car and everything will stay going for him, and he'll get a good result, because he deserves it. The pace is there. It's just a matter of being able to carry that pace from start to finish of a rally. For ourselves, it was a rally we'd always planned on doing. It fitted in the schedule, it fitted in time wise. We've done it. This will be our third year in a row doing it, and we like it. Nice stages there, so we'll go and see if we can gather some points in that rally and where that will bring us. And then the next one on our calendar after that is Seamus is, instead of me hopping across over the sea to here, he is coming the opposite way. He's coming to Ireland, and we're doing our rally, which is for historic spec vehicles only. So we're doing it again in an Escort, but a very, very different Escort to what we're used to. We're doing it in an old 1970s spec Escort. And
wonderful.
Yeah, so that'll be something good. So we've two more rallies to finish out our season. Time permitting, we may do one more in Wyoming. As I keep saying, we don't get too ahead of ourselves. We focus on what the next rally we're doing, and when we finish that all in one piece, all good to go, then we turn our attention to what the next rally is. And that strategy seems to have worked for us to date. So we'll just keep doing that, and hopefully the luck will stay going with this. We have a good setup, a good car, a good team. We're very lucky. Let's just enjoy it while we're doing it. I mean, I remember I would be a bit of a racing fan as well as a rally fan. And I remember Sebastian Vettel one time, when he was dominating everything in Red Bull, saying something that sounded, a bit prophetic at the time when the team were celebrating. And he said something, enjoy these days, because maybe we won't always have them, and maybe we won't always dominate like this. And don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to say we're this dominant force or anything like that, but we've had a really good year where we haven't put a wheel wrong, and let's just enjoy that while we're doing it, because in a couple of years' time it'll be nice to look back on these memories and remember, gosh, yeah, the 2018 season, we had a lot of wins, we had a lot of good stages, everything was good. So I'm very conscious of the fact that we're making good memories while we're here at the moment, and let's savor them while they're going on, because it's a nice time and a nice period in the sport for us. So we just want to keep at it while we can.
Well, Martin, I believe it's about time they're going to be calling for you to board your plane.
Probably are, yeah. I definitely don't want to get lateness penalties going on this, getting onto this plane. We managed to keep the season all penalty-free and on time. If I missed the plane, I don't think Mr. Burke would be too happy.
Not so much.
There'd be an opportunity to tease me about it, that's for sure.
Well, Martin, congratulations again on your championship. Thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us.
Thank you very much. Very enjoyable. Yes, let's do it again. Yeah.
All right. Cheers.
Okay. Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.
Well, I hope you all enjoyed listening to Martin Brady's talks about Irish rallying as well as rallying here in the U.S. Man, that guy has quite the career in rallying so far, and it doesn't look like he's going to be slowing down anytime soon.
No, indeed. And I'm looking forward to him selling that T-shirt. Every mile of road has 2 miles of ditch. I want that T-shirt.
It does sound pretty brilliant. Well, we do have some other bits of news we did want to talk about after chatting with Martin here. We did have the new schedule from the American Rally Association was released just earlier, or just last week, I guess I should say. And a big change. We now have the Rally in the 100-Acre Wood is part of the American Rally Association Championship.
Yes, yeah, very excited about that. Scott Parrott, who I co-drove at Ojibwe with this year. He's been on the phone already to me, and we're making plans for next year's schedule. And 100-Acre Wood is definitely at the top of our list of rallies to do. It's one that I've wanted to do ever since the first. It was the first rally I attended as a spectator in this country, and I thought this is really cool. I was amazed at the amount of people there were watching the rally, and I thought, well, this is, I would love to do this rally, and hopefully, it'll touch wood. It looks like I'll get to do that one.
Oh, that's brilliant. Well, it's going to be a little bit of an open paddock reunion if we can there. Of course, Doug Patterson, one of the founders of the show, he is from Kansas City, Missouri, and he is going to plan on going there, and so we'll be able to meet up with him. And I'm really excited for that because I haven't seen Doug in quite a while. And if we can swing it, I don't know if he's going to make it, but John Olszakowski, they're our friends that do that IndyCar. If you go on to the FBC, the Formula1blog.com, they've got the IndyCar coverage there, and that's what Doug and John do. And anyways, hopefully John can come up as well, and we'll get the whole crew back together again. That'd be kind of fun.
Yeah. So I'm looking at this schedule, and aren't some of these isn't the STPR out of sequence? Isn't it like in a different part of the year to what it's usually?
Yes, quite a bit so. The schedule changes quite a lot with the addition of the 100-Acre Wood. What we have is, so it's 100-Acre Wood in March, then Olympus is a second round. Normally we would have the Oregon Trail Rally in mid-April, and the Olympus Rally kind of at the end of April, but they kind of get kind of close to each other, which I know can be difficult when somebody breaks their car and needs to make sure they re-prep. It
could be kind of difficult for us trying to record podcasts as well, can't it?
Indeed. And anyways, so they wanted to make sure the schedule had more breaks in it, so you could, so teams could prepare for more rounds.
Yeah.
Also, they tried their best to keep track of what was going on with other events. So they didn't have any conflicts, specifically Canadian events. I know that, at least both East Coast and West Coast, there's sometimes conflicts with those, and I know they were looking at their schedule to try and make sure there weren't any conflicts with the national championship rounds. And each one of these also, it being a month apart, just makes it so much more convenient.
Oh, yeah.
And they've got a good flow from, starting in the, essentially the Midwest, the 100-Acre Wood. Then you go west, and it's Olympus, Oregon, then Idaho. So in Idaho's back in June, where they used to run traditionally, so that's kind of good for them. Less of a fire danger then, I think, because you're going to have still some leftovers from the spring rains. That it's not quite as dry as it was in September, and I think that's what makes it a good thing that STPR is more in that getting into fall, is because you get to those East Coast events, you guys get thunderstorms. We don't. So you never have really the same level, I think, of fire risk that we do out west. We'll get a ton of rain in the winter, and all the grasses and underbrush will grow quickly, and then it just gets bone dry. And that's such high, fast-burning fuel and such a bigger challenge. When you get into the deciduous forests out east, you got just constant little passing showers here and there throughout the summer months, and doesn't quite seem to have those same issues of quick burn kind of stuff. And so I think that plays well to some of those big concerns. I know that's something that's on everybody's mind is, the risk of fires. And of course, just trying to make, again, these rounds so they're spaced out evenly. So after Idaho, we go to New England in July, Ojibwe in August, and then finishing off at STPR. I think the one concern about STPR I was hearing is those DCNR roads Department of, what is it, Conservation and Natural Resources? Hey, yes, I think I got it right.
Yeah, sounds good. Yeah.
Yeah, I finally remembered what that was called. They don't allow, I think, intentional running on those roads at night.
Mm-hmm.
So that's going to be more difficult as you get later in the year and the days are shorter.
Yeah, September is still going to be...
Not going to be too bad yet.
Yeah, it's not going to be too bad, but...
Yeah. You're starting the downward swing, but it's not nearly at the level of you get a month after that. Like right now, I mean, I swear it seems like 5 minutes a day is lost or something. You know, the pendulum goes pretty quick. You know,
yeah.
So, anyways, I think I'm really excited about it. Again, some new rounds.
For sure.
Tour de Forest, as you can see, is not part of the national championship. They switched back to being a regional round. I did hear there was a challenge with that one, in that. They ended up being the same weekend as PFR, the Pacific Forest Rally in Canada, not knowing that ahead of time. And I think they're looking to try and change that date. So they're working on maybe an adjustment to that round, because they honestly didn't know that the schedule for Canada was released yet when they were reorganizing Tour de Forest. So they're a little busy finishing the one that ran, just a week ago before and getting things ready for that next schedule. So it's tough for them to keep track of everything that was going on. So, anyways. But also some other regional rounds that are part of ARA now, right?
What do we have? Four regional rounds next year. We have Headwaters, Tour de Forest, Show Me.
Show Me, yep, which would be using the roads from 100 Acre, yep.
Yeah, and then Namaji. So we have four regional rounds, all...
For dedicated regionals. But yeah, I think that adds a good mix. And it's good to see ARA getting behind doing more of the regional sport.
Yeah, and let's not also forget that Namaji this year is with ARA as well.
They weren't last year. That's right.
They were with Rally America last year, and now they are with the ARA. And apparently it's because this like a short notice decision, you're going to be able to use both your 2018 or your 2019 license to compete there. So hopefully looking forward to being in a car there for certain, because I mean that's only a few hours down the road for me, and as per usual, I know virtually everybody involved there, so it'll be a good day out for everybody there.
Well, then, of course, we have, I guess, finishing up in rally news, we do have, of course, as Martin Brady had mentioned, the LSPR, which is kind of almost the last round of the Rally America Championship.
Mm-hmm. Yep. A little bit sad that I can't be up there this year, because they really are great roads to be on. So, who is the hot favourite for that this year? I'm putting my money on Peter Fatella.
Yeah, I think Peter Fatella is probably... No, Joseph Burke.
Oh, yeah.
Now that Joseph's going to be out there in that car.
Yeah.
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 Fatella will be up there too, but it's going to be between those two. I think that'd be a good one to try and follow for sure. They've got a great list of... I mean, last I looked, there's like 56 entries, so good on them. That's a great event. I know a lot of people like it. The organizers are awesome. Just it is a good season finale event. I also, interestingly, I heard that Rally America was posting that they're planning on testing some sort of live timing solution. It's not the solution that's used by ARA. It's not rally safe. So I'm not sure what it is that they're going to be working on, but it's very interesting to hear that they're moving towards that route, because I would say it's something that our sport needs. As a fan, I don't want to wait 3 hours for times.
No.
Granted, even with ARA, sometimes because of the lack of cell signal, because those devices, they can only report so much. And of course, there's still other things that only a time card can do, penalties, things like that. So it's never going to be 100% perfect. But I think we do need to start moving towards our sport having more live timing solutions. And that, I think, is very, very important for the fan base to stay interested. Otherwise, they'd be like, oh, yeah, it's rally this weekend. Well, I'll check on Monday or Sunday night, because what's the point?
Yeah.
Unless you're a member of a certain, types of Facebook groups or whatever. But it's just hard. It's just hard to keep track of the sport unless you have some sort of solution like that. So, anyways, really excited to all my friends that are competing up there. I know Al Dantes, he fixed the brakes, thankfully, on Rexine. Because I don't remember at Ojibwe, he had 0 brakes and didn't tell his co-driver.
Yes.
That was brilliant. Yeah. I love that. You don't want to scare him, so we just won't tell him. We'll just be a little more sideways in the corners.
Yeah. But it made for good video. I saw some video of that, and yes, it makes for good YouTube video watching.
Agreed. So, but yeah, geez, just such a bevy of competitors out there, and I believe also there's a great little 2-wheel drive championship thing going on there. Well, not championship, but they've got
the Sisu Challenge.
That's what it is. Thank you, the Sisu Challenge, and it's pretty cool. I'm excited to see who wins some of the different things out there. It should be fun. So
that is a great example of how we were talking about this earlier. It's another great example of the camaraderie of the sport, and like everybody's like coming together to make even more of this event.
Well, I hope everybody has a good time. It's going to be, like I said, a great rally, a huge contingent of competitors out there, and follow Rally America for the timing on that. I'd like to see how the timing goes on. That'd be really cool to see. Moving on from American Rally stuff, let's talk a bit of WRC news, because there's been a wee little bit of drama since Wales Rally GB, and we didn't really talk about Wales Rally GB, but most of you, I'm guessing, who follow WRC know what happened there. Boy, talk about a tight championship right now.
It's what is it? 8 points between
OGA and
Neuville. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So and of course Tanak crashed. Oh no, he didn't crash out. He broke down on a transit, didn't he? So he didn't score any points at all. So it was
Tanak ripped off his entire sump guard.
Oh yeah, it was Evans.
That was Elvin Evans. Yeah, Elvin Evans
that broke down in transit.
A misfire.
Yes. Yeah. I just remember watching the video from there. I was watching Slate Mountain from Blind Alpha Stiniog, and I was looking at the rain, and I was thinking, this is what Wales Rally GB should be about. That was when my wife and I went last year. We dressed for that weather. And of course, we had blue skies and bright sunshine, so I felt a little bit cheated at that. But
let me tell you, if you came to Tour de Forest, you would have felt proper Wales Rally GB weather. We had it all for you.
Yeah. The championship is getting even more tightly poised with like just Spain and Australia to go. It's going to go down to the wire.
So, answer me this: if you're OGA, do you intentionally put yourself in a position where your points are just behind Neuville going into Australia, or do you want to be the points leader and be first on the road?
Oh no, I think you want to be behind somebody in Australia
on that first day. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
That's going to be tough. I mean, what kind of a game are they going to start playing going in, at Spain, because they're so close now? You could see them, either of them, like back off intentionally, playing a points game.
Yeah,
this could be really interesting.
I mean, we've seen the gamesmanship even at the start of the season, didn't we? With when people were like when OGA hit that barrier, and when OGA was it OGA that was waiting at the start of the stage to get a later start position?
Oh yeah, but that wasn't where he got a penalty for it, though. He did it in a manner that allowed him to get more of a dust window.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. So
Yeah, we seen that actually happen in American rallying as well. So they do it within the time control. Yeah, so basically it's like you're approaching the start, and I think they actually did a funny thing when last season's the Grand Tour, when they were talking about how Lancia won the last ever championship in a rear-wheel drive car, and how the guys would do tricks like that, like they'd be coming up the stage and they'd want more of a dust window, and so what they did is they'd be like, oh, my seatbelt, I just can't get it on straight, and start fiddling with it, and as the clock's kind of getting ready to go start, and they wouldn't force them to start on their start minute, so they'd give them another minute, because safety first, you got to make sure they're seatbelted, and then they'd get it all tightened, and boom, then they'd go at the time that they desired with no penalties. There definitely has been some gamesmanship that was attempted, and yeah. Well, we'll have to see how that turns out the next round in Spain, which, super excited. Alex Gelsomino returns as co-driver for Ken Block in one of those 2017 era new WRC Fiestas, and that's just a wicked looking freaking car. They've been out there testing this week.
Yeah, it looks. So I was watching some video just today of it, and yes, it's. Think they're going to have a good time there.
I think they certainly will. Other rally news. So the big bomb to drop, although I'm not sure if I've seen it as being official, but I think it was Autosports reporting that Chris Meek's going to Toyota.
That seems to be a done deal right now. The bigger bomb that dropped today is that he's not going to have Paul Nagel as his co-driver.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's now I've got to get my facts straight, and it looks like now this is the rumor that I heard. This is what I heard this morning. Chris Meek will have Seb Marshall as his co-driver next year.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
Boy, now this really starts moving things around, because so you now have Seb Marshall, who normally co-drives for Peyton Padden with the Hyundai team. Peyton doesn't have a contract done yet. His contract's over at the end of this year. You've got Meek comes back. He's gonna get presumably the full season with Toyota. I can see why Seb would want a full season instead of a partial season. So where does Padden go then?
Padden, latest I've heard, Padden is going to M Sport. With Malcolm Reed as his co-driver. Now this is where it gets complicated. Not that it isn't complicated
this is where
enough.
I don't know if that would happen, only because Hayden is so embedded with Hyundai's brand.
Now here's the thing. This is what I've heard, because it isn't an official Ford Works team. It's
right,
just
it's M Sport Ford. It's not Ford Performance.
Yeah, so Hayden would still be free to compete in a Hyundai in the Antipodes.
Okay, so in the AP4s in Australia and in New Zealand and all that.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
So
I can believe that as long as they're willing to work with that. So co-driver of who though?
Malcolm Reed. It's not a name I'm particularly familiar with. That just
me
came.
Neither. So if that chess piece moves, I know that does that mean Danny Sordo stays as the car there for the third car?
They think that Hyundai are going to be Neuville, Gilsoul, Mickelson, Jaeger, and Sordo and Carlos Del Barrio with Danny Sordo.
So Sordo would have a full season again.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which would be nice. I think he deserves it. He's done well. So.
He's done all right. Yeah. I mean, he is Mr. Consistent when it comes to some of the finishing results. A winner, a rare occasion. But I guess that's not what they're looking for. If they were looking for somebody to just get the points for the championship as the manufacturer championship, I can see wanting to go that route. So then we've got the whole Citroen thing, right?
Yeah.
Ogier goes to Citroen.
Ogier and Gracia at Citroen, yeah, and if we are led to believe that Lappi and Yanni Firm are the other car at Citroen.
Okay, so that's where the Toyota seat that goes to Meek now goes over there.
Yeah.
So now you're going to have Meek, Jari-Matti Latvala, as far as drivers. Yes, I understand. I'm not talking co-drivers, but so Meek, Jari-Matti Latvala, and Oyt Tanak as Toyota's 3.
Mm-hmm.
So you got Toyota pretty much figured out. You've got Hyundai pretty much figured out. Citroen, you've got, Lappy and Ogier. Are they going to run a third car? What happens to Breen?
Breen, and the latest rumours, Breen goes to M Sport.
I think that would be a good fit for him. He has obviously been a good relationship with the team, I think, over the years. Particularly when he, won his WRC Academy in a Ford Fiesta, and done many an R5 run, I think, in the Fiestas. Man, I kind of would have liked him to stay at Citroen.
Mm-hmm.
He did a lot of good work for them, and as far as if they want to win a manufacturer's championship, the rules I think are not changing as far as you can. I think it's the top 2 cars, but you can have all 3 classified, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's just the top 2 finishers. I mean, does Lappy have the consistency that Breen has? I don't know. Maybe he does.
Yeah.
I mean, it seems like he's been really consistent. I mean, when he doesn't have the feeling in the car to be quick, he backs off and seems to stay on the road for the most part. So I guess I can see that.
Yeah, perhaps Citroen will keep a third car for that. Maybe they could for that other guy. The one.
Stefan Lefebvre?
No, the other one that won the world championship 5 or 6 times. The French guy, Loeb.
Oh, that guy.
that guy.
the one that won 9 world championships.
Yeah, maybe they'll keep a car for him, and because who puts the money behind Citroen? The Sheikh.
Khalid Al-Qasimi?
Al-Qasimi, yeah. Perhaps him and Ogier, perhaps him and Loeb will run a third car.
Okay, I can see them
the
sharing one.
The guy's putting all that money into the team. He's probably want to have a drive every now and again.
True. I wonder how they've had Stefan Lefebvre in their Citroen R5 car for a little bit, and actually that's I guess one of the next things we can talk about. So next in the news is the WMC, the World Motorsports Council, had their meeting and they approved the schedule and some other changes coming to the WRC for 2019. One of the big things with that is in WRC2, it's going to be split now.
Yeah.
So we now have a R5 Pro Championship, which will be the manufacturer-backed teams and drivers and co-drivers. And then you'll have the WRC2 that's not pro, and that will be all the privateers. What's your thoughts on that?
In a way, I think it's kind of like maybe a little bit overcomplicating things. But if it brings back people like, if it can bring back Solberg, and there would also be room for like Toyota to bring some the Japanese people into a
true.
more.
I guess this is where it gets interesting for me, because what if it's a team that's manufacturer backed, but they're not running the car for the manufacturer, right? So let's say you have, the Tommy Mäkinen Racing is doing all of the work and running two, Fiesta R5s for the Asian guys, and they end up, being quite the dominant force because they're not really they don't have a lot of their own money in it, right?
Yeah.
It's still manufacturer backed per se by Toyota, but not Toyota run. So where do you draw the line there?
Yeah, that's
does make it a little more complicated, I would think. Okay, yeah, it's not Team Skoda with a Skoda, but yeah, this is kind of interesting. I'm curious to see how this ends up playing out. But I'd like to see Lukyanuk come over, and he's been really quick, and some of the other guys that done the ERC, that are privateers. I'd like to see them.
I mean, with all those guys, all those names that could come up from ERC, I think it would be a very competitive championship.
It could be. So interesting change there, though, and we'll have to see how it plays out. I think on the flyaway event, it's going to make things look a little weird, though. You're going to have, 3 cars or something like that on the R5 Pro, and 3 cars that are the privateers or something like that, and everybody gets on a podium.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. All right. Other interesting bit is JWRC does continue with M Sport. No surprise there. But WRC 3 is completely dropped.
No real surprise there, because WRC 3 kind of like meant that 3 cars were competing in the event, wasn't it?
Yeah, it'll be interesting. Well, one of your favorite drivers that you've been following.
Oh, Louise Cook, of course. Yes, she was been competing in WRC 3, so yeah, she's going to have to. Yeah. So, but well, yeah, I've said my piece. I mean, there was many times when there was at least 2, maybe 3 events that there were only 3 WRC 3 cars competing. So I mean, it's not really a financially viable to run a championship just for that. So.
All right, and just a couple other last bits of news on WRC stuff before we wrap up. The schedule was announced. It's now 14 rounds. There are a couple of changes. I think most notably, and I think most people knew it was coming. Chile now is right after Rally Argentina, so you got Rally Chile that we'll have.
Yeah, so I'm excited for that one, because I mean, Chile is mostly known these days for Dakar in South America. So I'm interested to see what the rest of the country looks like. So, because mostly we see them plowing across the big trucks, plowing across the dunes of Chile, and I'm excited to see what they actually have. Is it going to be? Well, we don't know a thing about the rally yet. Is it going to be altitude? Is it going to be in the Andes?
What roads that they decide to use?
Yes, because if it's going to be at altitude in the Andes, then that's going to be a whole different kettle of fish for the car's performances, isn't it?
It'd be like Rally Mexico plus rain.
Yeah.
Or something
could
like
be
that.
Interesting.
Yeah. Could definitely be interesting. I think most notably for me that was interesting is the lack of Rally Japan being on the list. And
there was a lot of talk about that. There was, and Toyota were wanting it, and unfortunately it's not there. So maybe it'll be there next year.
I would hope so for 2020. Yeah. Because, they've obviously put a huge investment in the sport. Honestly, not since the likes of, when Volkswagen had their big presence. I think Toyota's been kind of on the same level as far as their outreach, their impact in the sport. They've been really pushing hard at helping grow rallying. They have the passion there. And we know the Japanese fans are just crazy awesome when it comes to rallying. So... I think around there is pretty much required. We need to get there. And maybe it will spark some interest from other manufacturers, as we've kind of talked about in the past. If not in top WRC cars, then maybe in building R5s or something like that. So would like to definitely see something like that. The final bit of news coming out of WRC stuff, and probably the one that flat out pisses me off the most, is that the maximum competitive distance for WRC events has been now reduced from 500 kilometers to 350 kilometers.
Yeah, it pisses me off too, because...
What happened to rallying being an endurance event? I mean, we've already gotten to this short sprint-type format, which is better for TV. I get it. But what I liked, which kind of ended last year, was Jean Todt had made it that there would be like I think he called like a super stage, in each event. It would be like one stage that was like 50 kilometers long or 45 kilometers long. Each event would at least have one of those. I liked that. It would be like the decider. It would be, it was really cool to have something extra challenging at each event. As you make this shorter and shorter sprint styles, you're getting closer to this being more rally sprints just kind of bundled together than it is stage rally.
I can't disagree with you at all. It's like you and I and Tom Firth, the motorsport monk or motorsport maven or whatever. What do we call Tom?
He is a motorsport monk.
we he and I have offline have told you about the old days of the RAC rally in Great Britain when it was a rally around the entire country. It would start in the south of England, go up to the north of England, and then
Yeah,
into
okay.
Scotland. And
Yeah, I'll give
that
you
was
one
a
thing there, but the difference was, I mean, that's also going back to where it was tulips and wasn't even pace notes.
well, yeah, it was to start with, but they were there were there were proper stages in there as well. It's so I long for that kind of distance of rally. It's just not going to happen. With they're just wanting to like cut distances down. And where does it stop after 350 kilometers? Do we go down to 300? Do we go to 275? I mean, from 500 to 350 is a huge jump down, isn't
That's
it?
massive.
Yeah.
And on top of that, you've got where there's already a built-in requirement that the transit miles can only be a certain percentage of the competitive miles.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's further compacts the event to where they're going to use roads that might not be as good to see. So now that you have to keep everything in a tighter radius, you're not able to go out to where the better roads are. Maybe,
yeah. That's one way to look at it. I mean, it's like if you have looking at Wales Rally GB, if we cut it down any more, I mean, you're probably not going to be able to go from D side all the way down to Sweet Lamb.
Maybe not.
So yeah,
it's more than frustrating. I'm not a fan of this. I understand wanting to reduce costs.
Yeah,
I'm just not a fan of this. We're just getting away from the core of the sport being endurance.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. If it carries on like this, I'll give up on stage rally and go and pay more attention to Dakar and all the real long distance rallies.
There you go. Oh man,
we're getting on a real downer now.
We are. Well, kind of on an upswing. Something I thought was dead is not apparently, but coming back in a very different guise. Remember Global Rallycross?
I thought Global Rallycross was dead.
I did too. And then I got an email. I got an email for an invitation to go to Vienna.
Well, you've got your passport. Are you going?
I'm not going to Vienna. I do have my passport, yes, but I'm not going to Vienna. Apparently, there's going to be the European Rallycross GRC series. So it's a GRC Europe. And they're going to be announcing this. We'll see when I get this edited, but it's going to be on the 18th. They're going to have at this big launch in Vienna the new series boss, a Max Putcher. I don't know the guy's name. I apologize. They're going to have drivers like Alex Verts and Topi Heikkinen is going to be there, as well as some handicapped racing ace Rennie Sample. I don't know who he is. I haven't followed his background. Then they're going to have some major German motorsports TV presenter. Maren Braun is going to be there as well. One of the big things is they're going to be announcing this championship where we'll have, it's rumored so far they're going to have two classes of cars. One is going to be the traditional supercars that we're used to in the World Rallycross and in America's Rallycross, which is the successor to what GRC was. And a thing called GRC Titan, which is a one-make Rallycross series using a thing called a Pantera RX-6. And these Pantera RX-6 vehicles is a tubular chassis, engine, suspension, basically the whole kit, without the sheet metal body, or carbon fiber body, whatever they put on the outside of it. You can apparently design your own exterior shell that would be for whatever make that you're racing for. So you can make it look more like a Citroen, make it look more like a Ford, make it look more like whatever, and just slap that onto this tubular chassis. And it's supposed to be exponentially more affordable than running the true supercars that have gotten extremely expensive, without a doubt. That sport, World Rallycross, has skyrocketed in popularity and in cost. So much so, I believe Audi pulls out at the end of this season. And Volkswagen is pulling out of America's Rallycross here in the States.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, it's an interesting sport. But they're not dead yet. 10-round championship is rumored as well with this European GRC thing. Obviously, their goal is to maybe draw in more of those privateers. The European Rallycross championship, which kind of runs alongside the World Rallycross guys. Maybe they're just thinking they're not getting the attention that they deserve and would come over to this thing. I'm not sure. Interesting, to say the least. And this new Titan series and vehicles. Interesting things.
Yeah. Well, I just have to see. I mean, and I would say it's cost is the important thing. It's like if you can bring the costs down, you could be able to bring more people in, and if you're putting whatever kind of body you want on this Pantera chassis, I mean, who knows what you could race? Aston Martin,
Throw
anything,
on whatever body you want on it. Yeah. I'm guessing the profile would only fit certain vehicles.
Probably,
though.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I guess that's about it. Any final words before we wrap up the show, Ian?
No, not really. It's we're coming to the end of the season. We've got the silly season well in motion. So we've still got 2 exciting rounds of WRC to go yet. So we'll see what happens.
Well, yes, definitely end of the season. The ARA Championship was just awesome. This, I guess the first podcast I've had since we've been back from Tour de Forest. Wow, what a year! I still can't believe I'm doing the job that I've been doing with them. It's been so much fun, and I hope that we can do even more next year. A lot of cool conversations that we had with some of the management folks and some of the other media people, and a lot of ideas. We just need the funding, so hopefully we can find some extra sponsorship dollars or whatever to make those ideas come to fruition. There are definitely some doable things out there to make an even bigger presence for rallying in the U.S. So I'm looking forward to see what happens next, but I only have so much vacation time, guys. So yeah. That said, thanks, Ian, for coming back on the show. Love your new car. Enjoy the moonshine. That's it for this week's RallyCast. Please give us a good rating on iTunes or whatever other podcast app you use to listen to us. Follow us on Facebook, on Twitter, and on Instagram. Actually, I'm going to start adding these to YouTube. We have a YouTube channel that's been kind of sitting there stale and languishing for years. I'm going to start putting those up there as well, so we'll have a better archive of past shows. There won't be any video with it. It'll just be just kind of a splash screen and just the audio, but just gives you another way that you can listen to this and share it with your friends and whatnot. So if you like the show, make sure you do share it with your friends. We appreciate that. Anyways, as always, comments and suggestions are always appreciated. For Ian Holmes and our special guest, Martin Brady, it was awesome to have him on the show. I'm your host, Mike Shaw. Thanks for listening.